day 22, I believe is where we're at. Damn, every time I do one of these, it just feels like it's been forever since I did one of these. And I think it's because these past few days I have been working, and I don't know how other people do it, but there's something weird about going on 9 to 5 and then trying to do the things that you normally do on your time off, that there's almost like a barrier of resistance. I'm not sure if anyone else feels this, but I definitely feel this, and this is something that I actually enjoy. It's gotten now where I enjoy doing these videos. I enjoy thinking about what I'm going to talk about, and again, I try not to keep it too constrained or too scripted or too thought out as to what I'm going to do. I try not to do that anyways. And it's still hard. It's still challenging to find the motivation, the energy to come out and do these things. So again, it's something that I'm starting to see more and more often. There has been times where I have done one of these videos after a day of work. Then there's other times where I'm just like, nope, I already know I'm not gonna get to it. By the time I'm out of work, it's gonna be dark outside. I'm not gonna be able to see. Then these woods become, I would say, like just a tad bit more dangerous. And again, it's because you can't see. Visibility is a huge thing. And if I'm out here, when I've done night walks with my dogs or short little night hikes out here, it's so dark, it's kind of hard to see what's in front of you. Again, I could always bring a light, but I'd rather not take a chance to come across a pack of coyotes, especially with my dogs, especially if these coyotes are hungry. I can hear them at night howling, and they have this very intense, they have a very intense cry, or rather song, that they do when they catch something, and you can hear it. And it's kind of, I mean, if you don't know what it was and you're just out in the middle of the woods by yourself and you heard this, it'd be kind of terrifying because it sounds like laughter almost. Anyways, so that's why I haven't been doing these. I think the last time I did it was last week, so I took like about a week off, but here I am again, day 22. And today I'm gonna talk a little bit just about, and really, like, to me, what's important is I love books, and there's this book that I'm currently reading. That's by Tim O'Brien. He wrote The Things They Carried. If you went to high school, like in the early 2000s, maybe even like late 90s, it's a book that you probably read in high school, probably didn't think too much about, probably didn't put that much attention into. Understandably so. It's The Things They Carried is not a light read by any means. I was introduced to it in high school. I don't remember reading it, but I know I was introduced to it in high school. It's only until recently that I read it. I read this book last year, and I'm just like, whoa, like how, I guess I just didn't have the mind to appreciate what this man had to say. And two, I didn't have the reference experiences to actually compare what I went through in the military versus what he went to and what he saw and what he did in Vietnam, to kind of have like just a common reference point where you can communicate with an author. And I think one of the powerful things about books and about literature is that even if this author is dead, they're still communicating. They can still communicate to you in a way that is just as powerful as when they first wrote that book, when they first wrote that draft, tried to hone it, tried to create something to share with the world. And to me, again, that's incredibly powerful. But anyways, Tim O'Brien, I've been reading this book. It's called Dad's Baby Book, and it came out I think towards the end of 2020 or sometime out in 2020. And he wrote this book in 2020, and so far I'm not completely done reading it, But one of the most powerful things that I find about it is that he's essentially writing just love letters to his son. He's writing about these little stories as the kids were growing up that kind of showcased a little bit of their personalities, and just tries to go into detail about what the experience was like for him, because again, something I've never thought about. Now that I am going to become a father, it's something that I am thinking about, and I didn't think about my own dad or my own mom growing up. And it's that idea that, not even an idea, right, but as a kid, I'm not sure if other people are like this, but I don't really have that many memories of me as a child, me as a toddler. The memories that I do have of me growing up, they kind of start around grade school. They kind of start around, I want to say, kindergarten. I didn't go to kindergarten, not kindergarten, first grade. That's where they really start for me. And I wonder if that's because then I had the language to be able to transcribe those memories, because I'm sure our unconscious probably has, or probably doesn't, I have no idea, remembers most of what we've experienced and what we've seen in our life. It's just the conscious part of our brain kind of disregards as much unnecessary information to survival and to either things that are novel, new, interesting, whatever it is. Kind of throws all that away to make space and keep our conscious mind fresh. And I think it's because we hold like 7 bits of information in our conscious mind, or we can only remember like 7 things in our conscious mind, which is why they've grouped phone numbers. Again, 7 digits, the area code's different, but it's because that's how our minds can remember. They can't remember that much information quickly. It's like our RAM, our random access memory, what is available to us at any given moment. And that, because we have such a short memory space to be able to hold that information, the rest of it's kind of just either delegate or push away to unconscious mind, where it's either pruned, deleted, like, again, who knows? I honestly don't know. But in this book, he talks about the power of memory and how these little stories of his sons, when I'm trying to eat a cockroach, the little things that they say, the little things that they react to, the little things that in those moments are so important to them, so like, yeah, just so important, where they throw tantrums, they're screaming and crying and this and that. They're not going to remember those moments. Same way I don't remember any of the tantrums that I used to throw when I was a child. The same way, again, I don't know if other people are like this, but I don't remember a lot of that shit from childhood. Some people do, maybe some people don't. Maybe the general population doesn't. I assume they don't. But the way he's talking about it is that he's writing this book that way his sons, because he did start fatherhood at a much older age, his sons have at least some sort of idea of who Tim O'Brien was as a father. And to me, like, that's, again, I haven't thought about that. And it makes you think about my dad and the experiences that I've had with him and how he remembers life versus how I remember life growing up with him. And it made me think, like, damn, you know, this would be a good project to kind of just keep a notebook around just for stuff like that as soon as he's born. A notebook to jot down these little things that I find interesting, or these observations that I have about him, about our current situation. That way I have like a data bank of memories that I can draw from to create stories from. Not only that, but something to pass along to him, because this is something that I will talk to my father next time I go see him. But just to be in conversation the way books are in conversation with us, from authors dead a long time ago, or even current ones, to be in a conversation with the person who raised you. I know a lot of people didn't have fathers. Again, I'm lucky, grateful that I did have one. And I will be one. So I think about the things that I want to share with him, with my son, that I think will be very important, at least important from my perspective. They may not be important to him, but maybe, at least what I'm trying to understand from what Tim O'Brien is doing, he's essentially doing that. He's giving them a legacy. He's giving them memories that if they're ever struggling, if they're ever going through something, or if they ever just wonder whether or not their father loved them, because his son's interpretation of reality and experiences that they've had with their father could be very different from the relationship and the interpretation of those experiences that the father has with his son. If they have any doubts about that, about the love that his father or their father had for them, they can go to this book, they can read it, they can see themselves in the story. And again, Tim O'Brien does talk about memory. He also talks about fiction. He talks about how part of a writer's job is to not necessarily accurately transcribe the memory, but to translate the feeling into something real, into something that is real. He may change a couple words, he may change a couple sentences. For example, there's a story in the book where he talks very specifically about this, where his son speaks his first words, and I think it's either Shakespeare or somebody else. And when he's at a book signing, this very angry and irate man comes up to him right after he's speaking about how this is bullshit and this isn't real, and Tim goes something along the lines of well, the feeling was real. And this man is super angry about it, gets pissed off. And I think what essentially Tim was trying to say is that it's not necessarily his responsibility to transcribe everything objectively as real as possible, but to get his interpretation of it as accurate as possible, because essentially that's what's meaningful, that's what's important. For example, these woods. I could sit here and describe these woods as accurately and visually as possible, but that's not meaningful. What's meaningful is the experience and the relation and the definition of the relationship that I have with these woods. And I think what makes this book so powerful for me is that I can feel the meaning, I can feel the love, and I can feel the frustrations of a man who not only doubts himself, even though he's probably one of the most successful writers I know, and two, in the veteran community, he's like, this dude is considered like if you're trying to get into writing, he's the dude. He's the fucking guy who just made it happen. Like he turned his experiences in Vietnam and what he felt there, his interpretation of everything that happened there, turned it into a book to share with other people and to help other veterans try to cope with whatever demons that they're still facing. Again, one of the powerful things about literature is that it can take something that has happened a long time ago, and if at that time that experience had no meaning or it felt meaningless, using the power of the present to rewrite that piece of history of yourself, rewrite that narrative, and create something that is meaningful, create something that does help put into context, or at least help the author or the characters or whoever's reading it push forward and recreate something new, recreate a version of themselves that does have meaning, so that way they can continue going, continue living their life, and hopefully helping others to do the same. And his book, Dad's Baby Story, the title actually comes from his son, and it makes me laugh because I can only imagine how long he probably struggled with trying to come up with the title, and then all of a sudden his son just matter-of-factly, spontaneously just calls it that. because he's watching his dad probably struggle with this, and he just says something, and he's like, boom, that's it right there. But I think it's just really beautiful that he, again, so far from what I read, he's created this set of letters, this set of memories, fictionalized, he says, but the authenticity of the meaning of it, and to present that to his sons, because if something were to happen to him, he's no longer around, like, the love that he has for them, his love for them is so strong that he doesn't want that to end when he dies. He wants his love to continue guiding them, continue helping them out, continue sort of living and staying alive and being animated through the experiences that he has written down, through the experiences that he has shared with his sons. So that way they always know, like, dad, even though father or dad might not be there, his love is, and that's what's important. And hopefully that love is enough to carry them past these obstacles, these things blocking their path, where they see no way out, but instead they just continue and they find another way, and they just keep going. They continue growing into men. Again, and what that means in society nowadays, again, it's probably a whole different video, but to me it's a very beautiful book. Again, I've heard Joe Rogan say this, and I'm sure a lot of people have said this as well, but probably they say experience is the best teacher. I used to think that. Then I had lots of very painful experiences, and then I realized direct experience is an amazing teacher, but another amazing teacher is someone else's lived experiences. And I think the beautiful things about this book, even if some of it is fictionalized, even if some of it is recreated, even if some of it is a creative retelling of certain of these events, the power of the experience of the ups and lows of being an older father, and who has his doubts, has his frustrations. He says, I love my children, but I don't love all the things that they do. He says, I love my country, but I don't love all the things that my country does. That's really powerful, because it allows for mistakes, it allows for errors, it allows for fathers to grow, for fathers to learn from their mistakes, to learn from their past, to continue developing, continue evolving, continue shedding past and old layers of thinking and being, and becoming something new. Like, if humans don't have that ability to make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and develop and grow, like, that's not life. That's not living. The only reason all this exists that you see out here is because of mistakes, because things grow crooked, things grow sideways, things break, things die. That's why all this beauty exists. It's not because all this shit is perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. Perfection is this, I think perfection is what probably keeps a lot of people from being vulnerable, from admitting mistakes of the past. Like, hey, I fucked up, man. My bad. I'll learn from it. Let's try to go past this. Let's try to learn from this. Let's move forward. In this book, again, I'm about halfway through. Oh, such a fucking beautiful, beautiful book. And it inspires me to create something like this. And honestly, it kind of, I think I talked about this in the last video. There's this feeling that you get when you feel there's something important, and something like something you're supposed to explore more about. You can call it synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence. You can call it faith, destiny. I don't believe in that, but whatever you want to call it, it's this feeling that you get that just, it's kind of like a little nudge to like, hey, focus a little bit more on this. Pay attention a little more to this. So you can dive just a little bit deeper to find out, well, what is this trying to tell me? And this book, it kind of like it allows me to reinvent myself. It allows me to rethink of everything that I've done in the past, the relationships that I have in the past. Makes me think, how can I rewrite this? How can I rewrite this to learn from it? How can I rewrite this to share what I've learned from it? How can I rewrite this to carry on that legacy if I'm no longer living, if I'm no longer breathing? How can I do that? So at least the love that I've had for the life, the gratefulness, the appreciation of everything around me, how can I transcribe that into something that will outlive me and something that I can share it? Because if I just hold on to it, it's kind of useless. It doesn't really do anything, because it can't be redistributed, it can't be reshaped, it can't be reformed. It's mine. And I don't want this shit to be mine. I don't want this gift to be mine. Like, I don't want the meaning of life to be mine. The meaning of life is for everyone to discover. It's for everyone to partake in and enjoy. It's not for me to hold on to it. No, man. I think that's the power of Tim O'Brien's book, the power of what he's doing, because it's re-inspired me. It's allowed me to really think about the relationships that I had with my mom and dad, both in the past and then currently, and how can I use the skills and talents that I have and develop other skills and talents that I don't have at the moment to contextualize their lives, at least my interpretation of it, so that way my son, their grandson, has an idea of the history before him, of what the human beings that are in his life that love and cherish him, what they've gone through, what they've suffered through, what kind of challenges, setbacks, obstacles they've had to come to the United States, to create their own version of the American dream. So that way, not only does he have my interpretation of what that means to me and what he's going to experience with me as his father, but he has the wisdom of the elders, the ones who helped me, the ones who helped guide me. That way he has the wisdom of the elders, which is something that in American society you don't really see of. What do Americans do with their elders? What do they do with their grandpa and their grandma? They stick them in a home and let them wither and die. They're not involved in life anymore. It's almost like when you get to a certain age here in this country, all your lived experiences, the wisdom that you've accumulated from all those mistakes, gone. It's not cherished. It's not valued by the younger Americans, by their family, because they just stick them in a home. A lot of them just end up dying there. They become dementia, Alzheimer's, and all these other neurological brain diseases where they kind of just wither and die, where the memory of them kind of just fragments and disappears. And to me, I don't know, it just seems like just a very painful way to go. Because where's the meaning in that? You know, where's the meaning in your identity, your experiences, your loved ones just it's taken away, man? It just seems fucking terrible. So again, this is why no one knows how we're gonna die, but we all know that we are gonna die. One of these days, sooner or later, we're not gonna be experiencing this thing we call 3D, 4D, being a human being and living our lives here. We're not gonna experience this anymore. We're not gonna be able to cherish the relationships that we have anymore, that we've developed, that we could have developed, that the people, just the things that we experience here is just not gonna be available to us anymore. Or maybe it is, who knows? Again, this is just a giant simulation and we're just consciousness that's hallucinating a physical reality. Maybe once we die, we have access to be able to experience the entirety of our lives, right? Those 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, wherever long you live, and you can experience it in a moment because your consciousness is no longer constrained to the 3D realm. Again, maybe that's possible, who knows? But either way, if it is or it isn't, at least while we're here, one of the things that I want to do for my son is create this kind of legacy, this kind of retelling of my history with him as he's gonna grow up, because he probably won't have memories or won't remember the experiences that we had when he was little, because he will eventually grow up to be a man. And I want him to, or maybe he comes out trans again, you just fucking never know. But regardless, is for if Ben to have Selecting O'Brien, a book, something he can read, something that maybe even these videos, just something that he can watch, he can read, he can take in, so he can maybe understand the past stories of what brought him here, what brought him into creation, and maybe learn something from it, right? Because we can learn by direct experience through pain, or we can learn through the failures and lived experiences of other human beings, of the elders, of people who have made it to a certain age, whether they're successful or not. They've lived to that age. Are they happy? Are they kind? Are they gentle? Are they compassionate? Are they empathetic? Do they enjoy life? Do they enjoy the life they have? And if they do, to me, that's a successful person, whether they're financially wealthy or not. To me, it's what allows them to live life in that way. Because it seems, I mean, if you go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, you go look at the news, it seems like this world is always in a ever increasing state of chaos and disparity and just trauma, really. Part of that may be true, but part of it could not. Part of it could be manufactured as an illusion. An illusion is not really helping anybody. Like, traumatize somebody, but then not give them the tools and the techniques and the power of how to survive all that. Like, to me, it's one of the most powerful things that you can ever do. So that's what I'm gonna try to do for my son, is the retelling of the stories. There is part of what I want to do is just create that. And it's partly inspired by Tim O'Brien, but part of it is just like a reconsolidation of this idea that I've had, to create not just a book of short stories, but now I've come across an opportunity to actually help to develop my skills further as a writer. I won't talk about it too much because, again, I prefer to do things in the shadows and in silence, and then when it happens, I'll talk about it more. But just like a little, just putting it out there in the universe. I'm excited for this because if this opportunity works out, again, it's more of a long thing, but if it works out, I could potentially have a collection of stories that can be adapted into a wider media format. So again, I'm super excited about it. Again, it'd be, I don't know, it'd be such a fucking trip. I remember there's this film, it's called Voces Inocentes, Innocent Voices, and it's about the Salvadoran Civil War. And I'd heard about it, I forget through how or through where, but I watched it when I was in high school. I watched it with my then girlfriend at the time, with my mom and my dad. My dad's a very stoic, unemotional, hard ass, old school dude. I mean, this dude grew up hunting just to survive, and people think in the United States like that's barbaric or whatever it is, but for him it's like, no, if I didn't go hunt, I'd starve, my family wouldn't eat, my sisters and brothers wouldn't eat. So it's not just against different skill set, different time, different context, but he grew up in that kind of way, a more primal way, I would say, where you have to rely on yourself and the skills that you have to survive. We kind of do that now, but it's not as physically intense or present as dealing with nature and the animals and the elements of the weather and all that. Anyways, so we watched this movie, and that was the first time, I think one of the first few times in my life that I had seen my dad just like go to a state of mind that was vulnerable. I mean, he got a little emotional, he was crying a bit, and I remember my mom, I'm sure she knows more about these stories than I do. And again, it's part of what if he's open to it, what I want to create as a book of short stories, because they are part of his history. And I think it's very important that these kind of stories get out, because not many people know about what happened in El Salvador. And not many people know that they had a civil war. Not many people know what war does to people and their psyches, and how that gets carried through generations, man. If it's not healed within that one, if it's not addressed, it's just, it can devastate. So you finish watching this movie, and he got emotional, and just I remember just asking him, like, is this what it was like living in El Salvador, and is this why you left? And he just like nodded, and he's like, yeah, that's actually pretty accurate. And it just, like, it stunned us. Like, we had no idea what to say, how to empathize. We were just, you know, fucking 18, 17, 16, 17, 18, who knows how old I was. But I'd never seen my dad in this kind of state. And my mom was there, you know, she was sad, crying a little bit too. And it's just, I didn't understand the wisdom of what she told me then, and I probably don't understand it now. But she said something along the lines of, you don't know how good you have it here, David. And it's just, I'm like, wait, what? How could I, right? If you grow up and that was your normal, just everything in a state of war, you can't even go out to the market, you can't even go out with your family just to go shopping to buy fruits and vegetables for that day's dinner, for later on that evening's dinner, without a shootout happening, people getting murdered right in the middle of your town, of your little pueblo. Like, it's difficult to even fathom or imagine how that would affect your psyche and your development and your relationship with the world and other people, unless you've lived it. Again, I didn't understand at the time, but it kind of made me rethink how I view my parents, because, you know, you always just see your parents as your parents. Like, if you had parents growing up, they're kind of there for you, they help you out. Sometimes they put rules on you and you don't necessarily agree with them, so you break them, you do stupid shit, but whatever it is. But in that moment, it made me feel like, fuck, there's this whole life story about my parents that I know nothing about, because they haven't spoken about it. So I've grown up, as I've gotten a little bit older, again, they've seen me deploy, so they saw what I was like when I came back from the military. They've opened up a little bit about their past, what the Salvadoran Civil War was like, what my mom's childhood was like growing up in Mexico, in rural Mexico. They've shared those struggles. They've shared those things that they didn't really speak openly about to me as a child. Again, I probably wouldn't have understood them, but they spoke to me about it. And I think I had the opportunity with this right opportunity to further develop my skills and hopefully create this group of short stories that are probably going to run intertwined about the struggles and again, I just want to, it's going to be fictionalized, of course, but not necessarily them, but people from that era, from that age, and how that shaped and formed then, and why so many immigrants continue to come to this country, because this kind of shit is still happening, man. It's still happening out there in fucking Syria. This shit's happening out there in fucking Turkey. This shit's happening out there in Kurdistan. Like, this is not new. People still do this kind of fucked up things to each other, and governments allow it, because hold on, topic for a whole nother reel. So I'm hoping that not just going through the process of developing this skill set, but in hopefully just getting to know my parents a little bit more, I get to just deepen our relationship and our love, just to appreciate them a little more for the struggles that they have had, the struggles that I will never probably ever go through, but that they did, so that way I don't have to go through it. That's why they came to the United States. That's why a lot of immigrants come to the United States. More opportunities in a safer environment. Not that this country doesn't have its problems, it doesn't have its issues, but they came over and they created their version of the American dream. And again, I know it's a long-winded video. I'm probably gonna stop it here in a little bit, but that to me, just all this gives me inspiration for continuing on this writing journey, continuing on this path of trying to develop myself into a better writer, a better poet, to share these kinds of stories, because without stories and memories, what are human beings? Where's the meaning? Really think about that. Where's the meaning in anything that we do? We have to create stories from it. We have to, again, some stories are not helpful for us, but something can be, and they can allow us to move forward past traumas, past mental blocks, past all sorts of bullshit. Is the story that we tell ourselves. And if I can create stories, if I can create poems that can help someone recontextualize, reframe, or rewrite their portion of their history, either with their relationship with their parents or whatever it is, fuck, I've done my job. If I just get one person, I've fucking done my job. The same way other poets and other writers have done that kind of shit for me and continue to do that shit for me. Like, it's an ongoing process of discovery and rediscovery for me. So again, it's a beautiful thing. I'm very excited about it. And I'm just grateful. Again, I'm grateful that my version, even though my version of the American dream is different from my parents and a lot of other people, like, the feeling that I'm creating it, the feeling that I'm doing my own version of it, and that it's potentially possible was enough to just keep me going. So, story 22. Wink, wink. Story 22. Peace out. Love your life. Sometimes you just never know what you'll discover out here.